Hi everyone, this is going to be our group's module presentation on Module 7. My name is Aaliyah.
My name is Zoe.
My name is Carla.
Awesome, so let's get started. We are going to start off with the nature of social work as a profession. So, social work values are constantly evolving. What was considered to be best practice years ago may not be appropriate today. Several things drive these changes, like technology, for example, creates new challenges like maintaining confidentiality over Zoom sessions or managing boundaries on social media. Cultural norms are shifting, and our understanding of diversity and identity continues to expand. Our population is changing and becoming more and more diverse, and political changes affect funding and policies that also impact our work. This is why social workers must maintain and stay current through lifelong learning. We need to be able to adapt to new challenges while staying true to our core ethical values.
Okay, next we're going to talk about ethical dilemmas and ethical decision making. With the nature of social work, social workers will encounter ethical dilemmas involving every level of social work. So that includes micro, like individuals and families, like a smaller level of social work. Meso, which is like a medium level, local communities, and then macro, which is more government policy making. The type of dilemmas will change over time, reflecting the changes in the field. Decision-making models help in making the tough ethical choices that do arise. Future changes and advances in the field affect how these policies and ethical dilemmas are handled, so it's important to be aware of the decision-making models. Breaches in privacy and confidentiality is another posed threat as there are technological developments. So the continue of documentation and storage requirements are changing. Also, dilemmas regarding client self-determination and professional paternalism are more likely to appear as social workers get more involved in these complex decisions.
Our next slide is about how we should be strengthening ourselves as social workers. We should always be attending trainings and education programs to stay competent in all areas of the field and to keep up with new skills and knowledge. We should expose ourselves to debates about social work values, ethical dilemmas, and different types of strategies to solve them. Throughout our schooling, we should also be taught about the history of social work and their values, and even be taught more about the people of color who helped pave the way for social work. We should be taught about the ethical theories and the NISW Code of Ethics and the decision-making models and ways to prevent ethical complaints and lawsuits. We should always be in a continuous cycle of self-reflection and always be pushing ourselves to be better for ourselves and for the people around us. And always keep in mind that social work is a moral mission.
All right, so now we're going to hop into our case study, and our case study is going to illustrate several different ethical violations. So, our case study is on Jessica Smith, who's a licensed clinical social worker and a marriage and family counselor, and our clients are Emily and Bill. One day, Jessica goes out to lunch with her friend group. Her best friend Sarah pulls her aside and points out a side argument that their friend Emily and her husband Bill were having. Sarah states that since they aren't super close, they could be great potential clients, and she says she's going to refer them to Jessica. Later, Jessica receives a text from Emily asking if they could book a session for a discounted rate. Jessica agrees to this and starts seeing them as clients with the premise that they will be the exception for her sessions going rate. Later, Sarah asks how the sessions have been going, and Jessica starts to confide in Sarah about Emily and Bill's relationship, which then later gets brought back to the both of them through Sarah.
Next, we have some ethical violations that Jessica has committed. So the first is section 1.04C, which is competency. Jessica did not exercise careful judgment or take reasonable steps in order to protect her clients from harm. Instead, she decided to break confidentiality and confide in Sarah about Emily and Bill's sessions. Next is section 1.06A, conflicts of interest. Jessica did not avoid conflicts of interest and did not maintain professionalism, she decided to take on a couple in her friend group as clients. The next is section 1.07a, privacy and confidentiality. Jessica did not respect Emily and Bill's right to privacy and told her other friend, Sarah, about their conversations and issues in their relationships. And the last is section 1.13c, which is payment for services. When Emily asked Jessica if she could provide them with a discounted rate for their session, Jessica agreed.
And now we're going to hop into Reamer's risk management framework, and we're going to assess Jessica's case. So for the risk assessment under client right issues and for privacy and confidentiality, we have Jessica violated HIPAA by telling Sarah about Emily and Bill's sessions. This breaks client trust and the information could spread through the friend group. For documentation, we have Jessica didn't get proper informed consent about the dual relationship or document the fee discount. For service delivery, we have Jessica's social connections compromise her as a therapist, and she's unable to provide unbiased therapy because of this. For self-determination, we have Emily and Bill may feel pressured to stay in therapy due to social obligations. And then under professional practice risks for boundaries, we have Jessica accepted friends of friends as clients and gave them a discounted rate while still being able to see them socially and makes professional distance impossible. For role conflicts, we have Jessica has conflicting loyalties between her friend Sarah as well as her clients Emily and Bill. For competence, we have personal connections impair Jessica's judgment, and she won't be able to provide unbiased and best practice care. For informed consent, we have Jessica didn't tell Emily and Bill about the risks of therapy with someone in their social circle with a dual relationship, and these risks could harm the clients and put Jessica at risk for legal and professional consequences.
Next, we have our risk analysis. So for boundary concerns, it's a high severity, high likelihood. This friends to friends discount rate could create a client and therapist exploitation. For role conflicts, we have high severity, high likelihood. Dual relationships could affect Jessica's ability to provide therapy for Emily and Bill and could even affect their relationship as friends. For professional competence issues, it's a medium severity and high likelihood. This will create bias services for Emily and Bill. And for informed consent, we have high severity and high likelihood. This could damage the trust between Jessica and Emily and Bill, and also could impact Emily and Bill's relationship.
Okay, for the second part of our Reamer's risk management framework, we are going to talk about the risk management plan. So some of our preventative measures we discussed was agency meetings on boundaries and expectations, along with consultation or supervision for examining therapist motive and bias when it comes to treating Emily and Bill. Then we also need to get that informed consent, which we didn't get originally on the intake process. And then also following proper referral or termination of service protocols. As for documentation, again, that informed consent. Also, the ethical principles that were considered when taking on the clients. Some of the supervision needs. Supervision is needed if it is believed that the dual relationship is causing bias or breaches in other sections of the Code of Ethics, which it has been. So then our policy and procedure modifications and training requirements would be that the agency policies and expectations on dual relationships need to be clarified. Then making sure everybody's on the same page. Training on avoiding exploitation and risk assessments need to be introduced to Jessica as well. Implementation and monitoring. We said the timeline for this action should be taken immediately upon the initial intake, and it should have been continued throughout the monitoring and potential referral process. The responsibility assignments, this lands on the supervisor and Jessica to monitor and continue documentation to ensure no exploitation is occurring. And then also it's good for her to talk to her supervisor to make sure that there's no referral services are needed, or if they are in this situation. Some monitoring methods of this could include documentation, full team meetings, just to keep the biases and professional relationship in check. Some evaluation criteria is that they need to assess the dual relationship's potential impact on the client, along with clear boundaries and ethics, making sure that those are being upheld. Our documentation plan is that we planned to get, that informed consent, documentation of intake forms, the decision-making process, consultations and full team meetings, along with the referral services if that does happen. And then here are our references along with our peer-reviewed articles about the effects of dual relationships. Thank you for listening to our slide.
Thank you.